Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name is Joey. I've done a couple videos in the past on Diego Sanchez and Joshua Fabia, and I feel like now that that saga has kind of come to a conclusion, I thought it was worth, going back and putting the entire story together, start to finish, for anybody who missed any of the details. And you can just find one comprehensive video on the entire situation to understand it. So, Diego Sanchez, one of the most beloved UFC fighters in history, ends up with this narcissist Joshua Fabia. And it's crazy to have a guy who's so beloved with a guy who's so disliked. And I'm going to give you all the information on what went on. I'm going to play some clips for you. Some will be repetitive from my other videos, but this will obviously be a complete series of events. What went down. It'll be some clips from the Fabia interview he did on a podcast after the split up. And I'll tell you my best guess for what's going to happen with Diego Sanchez now and in the future. But Diego Sanchez is a guy. He won the Ultimate Fighter, the middleweights from Tough One. Obviously, he was not really a middleweight, but some guys just take the opportunity to get on the show. He competed the majority of his career at lightweight and welterweight. He had some crazy fights. I mean, that fight with Clay Guida was absolutely insane. The fight with Gilbert Melendez was absolutely insane. To lose, the first two rounds, I'll never forget. And then to come back and almost finish Gilbert Melendez in that third round was absolutely insane. By the way, do me a favor, comment down below and let me know what's your favorite Diego Sanchez fight or moment, because he's had so many great ones. I mean, that Clay Guida fight was absolutely insane. That fight was actually inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. They induct fights into the Hall of Fame sometimes instead of fighters, and that one is in there. That was just a wild, wild, crazy fight. But Diego somehow, even though he was the guy that put Jackson Winklejohn on the map, one of the first notable fighters from them, fought BJ Penn for the lightweight world title at one point in time. He ended up leaving them, and he ended up in the arms of this crazy maniac Joshua Fabia. I consider him a leech, a parasite. He was taking advantage of Diego this entire time. So basically, why did Diego leave Jackson Wink? And I'm going to play a clip for you right now, and you can kind of understand what was going on with Diego and his thought process. So here it is.
Even 3 weeks before this, I made a crucial decision. This is a Diego Sanchez moment. I made a crucial decision. It's 3 weeks before the fight. No more JW. Jackson Wink, one of the best teams in the world. No, I'm going in with one trainer. And people are like, wow, what the hell, Diego? What are you thinking? Well, I'm not only thinking, I'm feeling. And that's a big part of Diego Sanchez is I don't think too much. I don't think it's good to think too much. I think you gotta feel. You gotta feel this down here. This is your gut. And this is the universe right here that's inside of you. And me and my universe, and that universe, we won. We very connected. And I'm flowing with the punches, and I'm going with the flow. All I know is that I wasn't learning, I wasn't growing as a mixed martial artist, that they were teaching me what the knowledge and the information as trainers, the job that they were doing. They just were basically going through the motions with Diego Sanchez. And
was there anything in particular that led you to believe that, or was it just an overall feeling that they kind of learned?
No, well, for the past 3 years, Diego Sanchez really been doing it the Bruce Lee type of style training, going in the gym early, getting my thousands of reps in, and training myself, training myself in speed, training myself, I'm obviously everybody knows my grappling credentials, getting some grappling classes in, grappling rolls in, go get my rounds in with the young bucks and do my thing in the gym. But it would come fight time and get a couple mid sessions with Winklejohn, never really learning anything, just tuning up what I already had, and with Greg Jackson, it was, maybe one or two privates a camp.
So there you have Diego kind of explaining why he left Jackson Wink. He basically says he wasn't getting enough attention from them two. He had went on a 2-fight losing streak against Ali Quinta and then brutally KO'd by Matt Brown. I think he was KO'd by Ali Quinta as well. Then he went on a 2-fight win streak. One being, the last fight with Jackson Wink against Mickey Gall, which was one of his best performances in years. And he pretty much demolished Mickey Gall. And, it was a great performance, but he ended up leaving Jackson Wink soon after that. And you heard in that clip, basically he wasn't getting enough attention. And, he wanted some one-on-one attention, and Joshua Fabia was willing to give it to him. So after this, after this Mickey Gall fight and this split from Jackson Wink, he went on to this MMA guru. And Joshua Fabia was not only his MMA coach, he was his guru, he was his doctor, he was his physical therapist, he was his landscaper, he was his mechanic, he was everything under the sun for Diego. His manager, lawyer, everything. And after that, it went on to the Michael Chiesa fight. And before the Michael Chiesa fight, this was when things really started to get kind of weird. But right before the Michael Chiesa fight, Diego and Joshua Fabia went on to tell the commission that Fabia had taught Diego this death choke. And basically, if he was to get it in the Michael Chiesa fight, that the referee better stop the fight immediately because it could cause death or serious bodily harm to Michael Chiesa. And it was such a weird thing to say at the time, but it all makes sense now. Fabia is just, this guy who thinks he's so smart and thinks that he can teach Diego, death moves. And, Diego was buying into this too. Luckily, there's no clips of them talking about it, but it did come out. Chiesa kind of laughed it off. They went on to the fight, and Chiesa dominated Diego Sanchez. From bell to bell, just dominated him. Diego really had nothing to offer for him. And, Michael Chiesa is a true welterweight. He's a big guy. The size advantage was huge, but Diego literally had nothing. And this was the first point that people started to question Joshua Fabia because Diego didn't look like himself at all in this fight. And again, he's fighting a great guy like Michael Chiesa. But this was when, people really started to wonder what was going on. But it wasn't nothing crazy. So after this fight, he went on to fight Michel Pereira. And in this fight, again, UFC gave him a killer in Michel Pereira. UFC wasn't doing him any favors at this point in time. Michel Pereira was absolutely outclassing him, styling on him, destroying him. And eventually what happened was Pereira illegally kneed Diego Sanchez. And it looked like Diego was fine, but it was in the third round. Diego knew he was losing the fight. And Diego decided to say, I can't continue. And, I wasn't in his head at this point in time, so it's hard for me to really criticize him. But a lot of people thought he just wanted out, which, again, you can't blame him. He knows he's losing the fight. UFC pays the majority of their fighters based on a show and win money, and it's usually double the amount. So if you get paid $50,000 to show up, you get $50,000 to win as well. So basically, if you lose the fight, you're losing half your money. And Diego knew he was losing the fight. It was the third round. He was being outclassed, and he took that way out. And Diego and Fabia got a lot of hate after that instance where he lost that fight. And this was Diego's only win under the Joshua Fabia tutelage. And it was a DQ win. The referee decided to DQ Pereira and give Diego the win, and this was Fabia's only win with Diego Sanchez. Then after this fight is when really people started questioning, what is going on with Fabia and Diego Sanchez, and started to dig a little bit deeper and really question. And Fabia went on to do an interview with Luke Thomas, and it was an extremely bizarre interview. Fabia just made it all about himself. He was very combative. He couldn't answer simple questions. He was talking in circles. At one point in time, Luke Thomas asked him, what's your training background? And he basically said, well, I didn't know you needed a training background to be able to train an MMA fighter, which is just such a weird answer to begin with. The guy is just talking in circles. And when I listened to this interview, I knew this guy was a complete weirdo. So after this, some time went by. Eventually, Diego Sanchez got another fight with Jake Matthews, a younger up and coming guy, not really well known, and he was going to fight him on Fight Island. And another clip I'm going to play for you surfaced, and it's Joshua Fabia training with Diego and some other fighters at the UFC PI, chasing them around with a knife. I'll play that clip for you now. Here you go.
Continue the game. Go, touch each other. Everything's a knife. Everything's a knife.
So if that isn't the most bizarre training technique you've ever seen in your life, everything's a knife, everything's a knife. Fabi is just chasing him around with a knife in the cage. So bizarre, so weird. I had a good laugh about it, but, it's extremely weird. I don't think there's any other MMA coach, training that type of techniques to avoid a knife. It reminds me of the dodgeball movie. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. I guess if you can dodge a knife, you can dodge a jab or a body kick or something. I don't know what the rationale behind that was, but it was weird and just add to the collection of weird Fabia clips. After this, another video surfaced from the UFC, I believe it was, and it was Fabia on Fight Island right before the Jake Matthews fight, confronting Matt Serra, and I'll play that clip for you now.
Caught up in the interview, and they're telling you, and they're asking you about me, and you're able to see my name. You know that they're talking about me. You're actually saying on a camera, like you're disdained with me so much you can't even say my name, bro. Like
Dude,
that's kind of cold. Like
I told you already, I don't know your name.
Okay,
What's your name again?
Joshua.
Joshua. Okay. Dude, yeah, screw this something or other. I understand.
Okay.
Listen.
You can see how that right there is like a little like.
You know why?
You know what I'm
I
saying,
don't
right?
give a fuck. I'm with my friends having breakfast. You trying to come over here and make some kind of grandstand about you're bringing me up about no listen, bro. Okay. You want to talk? I'll talk. You're bringing up Michael Pereira. I think the guy's his fun.
Who? Piera?
Yeah, Pereira. Don't
sorry.
you gonna fix my fucking pronounce shit?
No,
Oh yeah,
I'm
okay.
just sitting here.
And then you bring it up, oh man, it's amazing how people don't bring up how Diego, look at his fight with him. I thought that fight was shit. You know what? It was phenomenal.
Well,
his fight with Carol Parisian.
Absolutely.
Fucking phenomenal.
Absolutely.
I like that's the Diego I think's a fucking beast. So Diego has my full respect. So before this is not going to get any better. I just do your thing. Good luck with you. I hope you make some money off Diego. Do what you got to do. And that's it, bro. Okay? Right. When I listen, not my type of guy. Do your thing.
So there's Fabi again, confronting someone, making it about respect. Basically, Matt Serra said something that he didn't like about him and Diego, and he was going to confront him about it. It was just very strange. Matt Serra clearly didn't care at all. Kind of wrote him off. Kind of confronted him about taking advantage of Diego. I hope you make plenty of money off of Diego. Good luck. Leave me alone, basically. And it's just the guy is just so weird. He does not know how to talk to anyone. And this is a common theme. I've said this before. For a guy who runs the school of self-awareness, this guy is so incredibly non-self-aware. He does not know what's going on around him. Every time he opens his mouth, he digs himself deeper and deeper and deeper. And then Diego goes on on Fight Island to lose to Jake Matthews. And now essentially Diego has lost 3 fights in a row. I know technically he won one of them because of the DQ, but he's essentially lost 3 fights in a row. And this is when a lot of MMA media fans and everyone else is really going, is it time for Diego to hang it up? Is it time for him to retire? And, it doesn't seem, like the UFC really wants him around anymore. But again, Dana White has a soft spot for the Ultimate Fighter 1 guys, and he decides to give Diego Sanchez a fight against Donald Cowboy Cerrone. And this is going to be his retirement fight. Cowboy's kind of on his way out. Diego's on his way out. And they decide, okay, we'll match you 2 guys up. That should be a fan-friendly matchup of 2 guys who both desperately need a win. And that can be your retirement fight. It was known beforehand it was going to be Diego's retirement fight. And A lot of people were looking forward to it. I was okay, on it. I wasn't super hyped or anything like that. It was two guys well past their prime, but it was at least a chance for one of them to go out on a win, hopefully. And I think that's what the UFC was thinking, and both of those guys are fan favorites. So that fight was scheduled. Now, as it got closer to the fight, Fabia's team or whoever released a video from back on Fight Island with it during the Jake Matthews fight or during that fight week. And what happens is during a fight week, the commentary team, along with some of the interviewers that work for the UFC, sit down with each and every fighter on the card and talk to them about their training, talk to them about their game plan, ask them questions about the upcoming fight, just so they have some substance to talk about during the fight, whether it's commentary behind the scenes, or an interviewer of fighters post fight. They have some, things to really look back on. They take notes. And at the end of this interview with Diego, they talked to Diego for a while. You can find the entire thing online. And at the end of it, Fabia says, okay, I got something to say here. And he starts berating the UFC staff, which consists of Paul Felder on the commentary team, John Anik, Megan O'Leary. And I'll play that clip for you now. Check that out.
And I like the dynamic of having a giant and a 5'2" guru. It makes the story even better.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. It's it for me.
Good. You're good, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Dito.
Hold this for a second. Hey, real quick, guys, just because you don't know who the hell I am, and you guys heard a lot of shit talk and all the good stuff. Let's just cut the bullshit on the commentating. No low blows on this guy. No trying to turn the narrative that he's fucking up his legacy and all that weird stuff. Let's just keep it fair. You want some video? Contact me and I'll send it to you. You want to know what's going on? You want to actually talk to the people doing it? You might actually have to fucking talk to me. And coming at him like he's gonna know all this shit, he ain't. He hasn't been there the whole time. So if anybody needs to actually get those answers, you will have to speak to me. And to do that, probably allowing the media to turn the narrative on the guy that's trying to help people here. And when you respect these two legends, it seems a little disrespectful that you don't recognize that they respect me. And if you're gonna be the one telling the narrative, that's on you when I'm getting shit on by the public, by millions of people. Now, if you're gonna be here like leveraging off of all this, man, notice I'm on the end of the shitty stick here, and none of you have stood up for anybody that needed to be stood up for. And that's real. You guys are like the tough guys and all this stuff. If nobody's
I don't
gonna,
know what the fuck you're talking about.
you don't know? You know what I'm referring to?
So there's Fabia, basically confronting UFC staff saying, the stuff you guys say on the broadcast causes me to get online hate, which I every time, and that wasn't the entire clip, but every time someone said something logical back to Fabia, he had nothing to say. And Diego stands there and, he looks perplexed by the whole situation. You have Stephan Bonner behind the camera recording the entire thing. It's a very, and this is a word, I wonder how many times, someone's going to have to comment in the comments how many times I say the word bizarre in this video. It's a very bizarre thing to do, to film this entire thing. And at one point, and I don't think it's in the clip I have for you, but at one point, Megan O'Leary calls him out, like, why are you filming this? This is weird. And he's like, I'm documenting everything. And that's a common theme for Fabia as well, recording everything, even the most strangest of things. But it was incredibly bizarre. And again, all he does is complain that he's not getting a fair shake, and you guys need to talk to me about Diego's training and just trying to get some publicity on himself. And again, this came out well past the time it was recorded. This came out, a couple weeks before the Donald Cerrone fight. I think like 2 weeks or, maybe a little less than 2 weeks before the Donald Cerrone fight. And this was way back in, I think, September when he was fighting on Fight Island. And that's when it was recorded. But the guy just shows he's a total narcissist. He's a attention whore. And he's just not self-aware at all. This guy is just saying, basically, Paul Felder, you're causing people to hate me online. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never even called a Diego Sanchez fight. He said, well, I don't mean you specifically. It's just very weird, bizarre. And right after this, is when Diego Sanchez is cut from the UFC. And everyone's like, what's going on here? Was it because of that video? We weren't sure. I wasn't sure. I'm going to explain to you why in a minute, why he was cut. But, you know, right after he was cut, I remember seeing him on Instagram still training. There was videos of him training. And then another video leaked. And I'm going to play that for you now. It is the bizarre upside-down Spider-Man training between Fabia and Diego Sanchez. Check that out.
You recording or no?
Yeah, recording.
Okay.
So there you have it. And I've talked about that video at nauseum. You have Joshua Fabia. You have Diego Sanchez hanging upside down. What gets me every time I see that clip, is Fabia turning back to the camera and said, "You're recording this, right?" Like he wanted that to be recorded. That just goes to show this guy needs a full mental evaluation. To hang a guy upside down, all the blood's flowing to his brain, and begin to slap him and punch him in the head repeatedly. For me, and I'm going to get to the reason why I believe that Diego was cut, which is a very educated guess. It's most likely right. I would say I'm 90% sure, if not 99% sure. But, it looks like he's trying to give Diego CTA. And maybe he didn't get enough on the last scan or something like that. But he's just, what a bizarre, is he training to be Spider-Man? I just can't believe it. When I saw that video and that video leaked out there, I said, this is very, very bizarre and strange. One video I did not expect to see, and that was extremely strange. Diego just hanging upside down. And Fabia even threw some kicks in there. So, I don't know what more to say about that other than, please give Fabia a full mental evaluation. So let's get to why I believe the UFC cut Diego Sanchez before the Donald Cerrone fight. And I want to play this call for you that Fabia had with the UFC lawyer. Check that out first.
Text from someone in my medical department basically saying that you called them for a, quote, formal request for all of Diego's pre-fight medical records, paper copy, all necessary post-fight records, every physician that he has ever been evaluated by. By the way, we have no control over any of that. That's all commission done, so you'd have to make those requests formally with the commission. But more importantly, with the direct quote that I received was, you stated that the, quote, long-term effects of Diego being an MMA fighter were your basis for requesting it. Yeah. So I went through this with Mark Hunt, and here's the reality. If you're concerned or he's concerned that he's having negative effects, then we're not going to fight him. And I'm going to pull the fight right now. And we're going to call it a day, and we'll release him, and he can go do something else with his life. Because I'm not putting anybody in that cage that doesn't feel 100% or thinks they're suffering from any medical issues.
Well, it has more to do with how is his physical body and all the treatments that he's had over 17 years of injuries in his hands, his face, and all over his body that I'm referring to, that if he needs medical attention after his career, how is he supposed to move on without medical records? As that's what I'm concerned about. That's all it is that if he has to go see another doctor about his hip or his back or any of these things, how is that doctor, why would we have to pay for new imaging, new everything when it should be on file? Well, I don't understand what the problem is.
So there you have it. It's Joshua Fabia talking to the UFC lawyer. And basically what's going on is Fabia requested all Diego Sanchez's medicals. And I don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes at the UFC, but the medicals are basically a pre-fight checkup. and it's usually ran by the commission because essentially it's a conflict of interest. The UFC, if they were doing that, they could essentially just push fighters through that they want to fight even though they're having medical issues. The commission is supposed to be there to protect the fighter. And, Hunter tells them that, oh, if you want those, you have to go through the commission for those. In every state that he's fought in, you have to request those. And basically, are you telling me there's something wrong with Diego? Because if there is something wrong with Diego, he cannot fight Donald Cerrone. We cannot put him in the cage. That's a serious liability. And Fabia just says nothing but nonsense. Well, we don't want to have to pay for extra imaging in the future. Well, if you're having an issue in the future, you're going to have to pay for that extra imaging regardless. It's just non-answers. And the call ends with Hunter Campbell telling him, look, I'm going to send you an email. I want you to respond confirming all is well with Diego. Otherwise, I'm not putting him in the fight because there's too much of a liability there. And my speculation, and a lot of people's speculation, and it doesn't take a genius to guess this, is Fabia was trying to get medical information to look at a future lawsuit against the UFC for any, potential brain damage, motor function issues what Diego may have in the future. Fabia was looking at Diego and saying, this guy's career is coming to an end. And I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen with Diego in the future. Well, now and in the future, since it's split with Fabia. But basically, how am I going to get more money out of this guy if, he's no longer able to fight in the UFC? And it was a lawsuit, and that's what he was thinking. He wanted to get these medicals, to begin a lawsuit against the UFC after Diego's career was done. And that's the UFC knew that, and that's why they told him, I'm going to send you an email. I want you to confirm all is well with Diego. That's it. If he can't do that, then I'm not going to fight him. And eventually, they did not do that, and so the UFC said, okay, well, we're cutting the fight, and we're cutting the fighter. They end up paying Diego his full win and show money. So, he got a great deal. He didn't have to fight, and he got his full paycheck. So, I don't see how Diego could have any ill will, but he did. He was very emotional about being cut from the UFC. I don't think he truly understood why he was being cut from the UFC. He looked at Fabia as his leader, and Fabia was letting him down every way, shape, or form. Maybe he's decent at one thing. I don't know what it is. But how is he this expert negotiator? He's also this, school of self-awareness. He's a MMA guru. He's a physical therapist, landscaper, everything under the sun. How is he able to do all these different things? And, I think Diego was really emotional. I'm going to play a clip for you now of Diego doing an interview after he was cut, and you can just see how emotional he was.
He might bring some light. He might bring some awareness to what you're hiding in the dark. Well, I'm still open to meet with you, Dana. Be a fucking man. Be a real fucking boss. When I've bled, I've sweat, I fucking cried. I fucking cried for this fucking company. I fucking sacrificed more than you will ever know. And you can't fucking have a 45 minutes to meet with it? Oh, but you'll meet with Clay Guida. You'll meet with Clay Guida and you'll post that shit up. But little brown boy from New Mexico who was supposed to be knocked the fuck out.
So you can really see how emotional Diego Sanchez is there in that interview with Anthony Smith. He's very upset, and I don't feel like he fully grasped why he was cut from the UFC. And it's because of Fabia's actions. I think Diego Sanchez, reputation and legacy has been rehabilitated a little bit so far, but I don't know if it'll ever get back to where it was pre-Fabia. Fabia has put a stain on Diego's reputation that will always be there, and it will always be remembered as one of the weirdest stories in MMA. There'll always be videos out there talking about it. And I really do truly feel bad for Diego. I was one of his, he was one of my favorite fighters. Just, the grit the guy had, even if he wasn't the most technically sound guy, he went out there every single fight and gave his maximum effort. And that's what I love to see, and a lot of people love to see. And Fabia is trying to get some type of lawsuit money in the future, ruining Diego's retirement fight. And he wanted that retirement fight bad. You could just tell. Throughout this whole thing, another thing I wanted to cover is throughout the entire situation, people speculated that Diego Sanchez and Joshua Fabia were in a romantic relationship. And I'm going to play for a clip for you now of Diego Sanchez answering that question. Take it for what you will. I don't know if, some people don't believe it, some people believe it, but I thought it was interesting to include considering a lot of people believe that's what was going on. So here's directly from Diego Sanchez. Listen to it for yourself and make up your own mind.
Coach me in speech. He mentored me and coached me in father, how to be a better father, how to so many other things. It's not, and no, we're not gay. Yeah, the Ariel Hawani pushed that narrative. That was a part of Ariel's narrative. Put the little picture up and the brazzers. And no, we're not gay. He's been the best friend that came into my life, helped me get my shit together because he's seen a man who was so traumatized.
So there you go. You heard it straight from Diego Sanchez. They are not romantically involved. Take it for what you will. I just thought it was, a lot of people talked about that ad nauseum. And, maybe he's telling the truth, maybe he's not, but I'm just going to take him for his word. And I thought it was interesting to leave that clip in there. So this is, that interview was right after he was cut. And him and Fabia proceeded to go in multiple interviews. And every interview, they were just digging the hole deeper and deeper and deeper. Fabia has no self-awareness. He went on one interview, and I could not find the clip, but he went on one interview and was asked about, hitting Diego while he's upside down. And he basically said, I hit Diego for an hour every day. I'm training his brain or his chin to get used to, shots, and stuff like that. And it was just so disturbing. He just kept saying ridiculous shit time and time again. And at this point, seems like they were doing 3 interviews a day. And just more bizarre stuff was coming out. And at this point in time, there began to be more and more pressure. Like, Diego needs to get away from this guy. He's a parasite. He's a weirdo. He's taken advantage of you. He's ruined your career. He's tarnished your legacy. There's talk of him, sexually exploiting him on OnlyFans, saying all this disturbing stuff that Diego had no idea about, apparently. And just taking advantage, Diego, and trying to squeeze every dime out of him. And at this point, someone, I don't know who it is, whether it's his ex-wife or whatever, talks some sense into Diego. And at this point in time, Diego cuts all ties with Joshua Fabia. And a lot of people, really give Diego a lot of credit, and they're so happy to see that he's cut ties with Fabia, got that parasite off of him, and just can move forward with whatever's left of his career. He's still a fan favorite. And the last part of this video that I want to show for you guys is some clips from Fabia goes on a podcast, and he just goes absolutely insane on Diego Sanchez. I'm going to play a couple clips for you here. This first clip is he was asked about the training video of Diego hanging upside down and what was he doing there, and this was his response. Here you go.
And one of the things people tend to ask a lot about these days is that small clip you guys put up of you having Diego hang from the A-frame of the bars and essentially using him as a punching bag. So it's kind of the question of, was that more his decision, your decision, and what was the method of training behind that?
Okay, those are several questions, and they're all very easy to answer. Let me work backwards, though. The first one you said, what is the method? Well, you can go onto YouTube right now and go look at body hardening, and you will see some of the most ridiculous things way beyond what you see me doing. What I was doing are gentle in comparison to what you will see others doing, okay? It's a very normal practice.
So there you go. He was saying he was doing body hardening on Diego Sanchez. He said, go look up clips on YouTube. You can find many, ridiculous clips. Exactly, it's ridiculous. And what kind of body hardening is done on the chin? He's punching him in the jaw repeatedly over and over again. Just the guy is a straight up psychopath. He's a weirdo. I'm going to play another clip for you, and it's basically Fabia on the split with Diego Sanchez. Here's that clip.
Now, if I fast forward you to now this separation, which is due to me leaving Diego, because of me finding out new information.
So there you hear it straight from Fabia. He didn't leave me, I left him. You know, he just sounds like a crazy ex-girlfriend. And I said this in my past video. He sounds like Elliot Rodger, you know, a mass shooter from way back in California. The guy is just straight up disturbed. And another vibe that I got from this video, he kind of made it seem to be, you know, Diego didn't have as much money as I thought he had. So he screwed me over. He took advantage of me. He led me along. It was just disturbing. The next clip I'm going to play for you is my absolute favorite clip from, you know, the whole entire Diego Sanchez Joshua Fabia saga. It's him being asked about the OnlyFans and the possible sexual exploitation of Diego Sanchez. Listen to this clip.
This is minutia. People are writing in, and what they're concerned about and what they're trying to address is stuff like the OnlyFans and him naked wrestling in a river. Like, that's the stuff that people are dumping on you.
What are you talking about? There's no naked wrestling in Aruba. There's no naked
I said a river.
No one
and if
said
you
a river,
speak
we
to me
said
like
a
that
river.
again, I'm going to hang up on you, man. Like, I'm being polite to you. I'm just asking for straight answers.
I don't know what you're even talking about. What? Okay,
On
ask me a
OnlyFans.
question here.
Okay. There
What
is a
about
perception that Diego Sanchez was not familiar with the kind of content you were putting up on OnlyFans. Is that true?
Diego knows exactly what's on there, and you can go look. It's all just training.
So there's the OnlyFans clip. An interviewer asked Joshua Fabia about the OnlyFans. When he says naked wrestling in Aruba, I almost died. I mean, the guy just, I mean, you can go find this entire interview online. It's about 30 minutes long. The guy just talks in circle and never really answers the questions. At this point, he says, oh, Diego knows everything I'm doing on there. It's just nothing but training. But he never really answers the question, did Diego know you were putting all these sexual explicit captions on these photos? And the one they were talking about was apparently a couple of the training partners all naked in the river practicing leg locks. I saw that online somewhere. I don't have that picture, unfortunately. My guess is that's probably taken down at this point. But one of the final clips that I'm going to play for you, I'm probably going to play like two more, is just Fabia looking for every and any way to trash Diego. He calls him, you know, basically special needs. And then this other clip I'm going to play for you is him, you know, saying Diego took steroids when he was in high school. Like, what a little jealous girlfriend, trying to snitch out anything he can to try to hurt Diego. Here it is.
Diego is probably special needs. He needed to be properly cognitively studied. He never wanted to do any of that.
Well, he is in a study now. He is in a study now. So that is a good thing that came.
A brain study is one thing. Cognitive study and evaluation of other things to find out that the poor guy is not the same. Listen, we're in New Mexico, and if you're special needs in New Mexico, they just push you through school. So let me tell you another secret that Diego Sanchez didn't really want anybody to know. So Diego took steroids in high school to win the high school state wrestling.
I gotta say, we have to jump off.
So there you have it. Fabia calling him special needs, which, so even if he is, you know, why are you trying to trash him there, you know? Earlier in the interview, he talked about him saying he was a drug addict, an alcoholic, and just trashing the guy nonstop, just trying to do anything he can to get under Diego Sanchez's skin. The guy sounds like a jealous ex-girlfriend. And if Diego really is special needs, so you're taking advantage of a special needs guy, and now you've come on this interview, and you're doing nothing but trashing the guy intentionally. And then the ending, Diego took steroids in high school. Like, what is that? And the interviewer didn't even care. They're like, we got to cut this off. We're done with this. This guy's a lunatic. And this was really the last we've heard from Fabia. It seems like everything has cooled down now. I waited around. I wanted to see if any more information would come out before I did like a final update video. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. It took a lot of work to put all this together. The final thing that went down was Diego Sanchez, you know, has never been asked about, you know, Fabia in an interview as far as I've seen. But he did post an Instagram post, and I'm going to read that to you right now. To all my family, friends, fans, and the MMA community, Thank you for your continued love and support through this very challenging time in my life. I appreciate all of the defense that arose for me on my behalf of my career, myself, and all those who were involved. Thank you for those that have been sensitive to this situation. I apologize to all of those that were affected negatively. I will refrain from provoking this situation any longer. I refuse to fire back on accusations that in the intent were made to provoke me and those close to me. Once again, my faith has taught me to love thy neighbor and love thy enemy. I wish peace to the surface moving forward. I will lift Josh and Rebecca up in prayer that God helps them find their peaceful awareness. In Christ, Diego Sanchez. So basically, he says, I'm not going to be provoked with these comments by Joshua Fabia. And I think it was the right thing to do. There's no reason to stoke it any longer. I think Fabia, being the weirdo that he does, he probably has some type of blackmail on Diego Sanchez. And just to keep the situation going on any longer, just gives him the ability to have a reason to use it. I hope he still steers clear of this leech for the rest of his career. But I promised you guys that at the end of this video, I would tell you what I think would happen to Diego Sanchez in his career going forward in combat sports. First off, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like the video, make sure you're subscribed, and make sure you turn on notifications. But I mentioned this in previous videos. I said I don't think Bellator is going to touch him. I don't think One Championship is going to touch him. I don't think PFL is going to touch him. But I said there was one company that may touch Diego Sanchez, and that was bare knuckle boxing. And now that Diego has cut the parasite away from him in Joshua Fabia, I believe that Diego may have one or even a couple final fights with bare knuckle boxing. He's been at a couple of their events, being like an ambassador, talking, doing interviews on their behalf. And I just really think pretty soon they will probably announce a contract with him for a fight, or maybe 2 or 3. We'll see what happens, but that's my prediction. And I think that pretty much sums up all the events that went down with Diego Sanchez and his MMA guru Joshua Fabia. Thank God that Diego got away from that idiot. I'm so happy. I'm a big Diego fan. I hope that, no matter what he does in his future, I hope he gets paid big dollars for. And I hope everything's well with him. I hope we never have to hear a crazy situation like this with him again. I think that does it for this video. That sums up everything. This is going to be a long video. If you made it all the way to the end, you don't know how much I appreciate you. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.